So we've got 20 minutes as sort of a track intro, and I do have a couple of slides, which I will go through, but I kind of want to hear a little bit from this is going to be a more collaborative session. There'll be a few talks, but I want to hear from folks kind of what they're thinking, what their perspective is on this chunk of this space, what you want to see from working with data in IPFS, which is sort of the prompt on the intro session thing for those of you who filled it out. So maybe I guess maybe we'll start with that. Kind of go around the room, say your name, and maybe a little bit about what you kind of wish was doable with the IPFS and data things that isn't today, in a couple of sentences. So I will start. My name is Adin. Work on IPFS things like Kubo. The thing that I really want to see from working with data is at the very, very least, I would like all of the hash-linked descriptions of files and directories to all be traversable and usable with a set of tools, for instance, a gateway API. So if you are Git, or you are BitTorrent, or you are a checksum of a large file, or you are UnixFS, or you are Arweave, or you are Pyrgos, or you are WNFS, all of these things should work. If we haven't done that, then we've made our lives really hard because we make things, we want to make these things change over time. We want to make better structures going forward. So that was kind of long, but we'll move along. Yes, Hannah, you want to go next? Yeah.
Hey everyone, I'm Hannah. So I work a lot with IPLT because I work on a network protocol. We use something called IPLT selectors, which are query links derived with IPLT. What would I like? I would most like to figure out, I'm interested in IPLT from an application perspective as well as from a thing we built UnixFS on top of perspective. And I think it's, they said yesterday in the Lotus talk that Lotus is essentially an IPLT application because the entire VM is IPLT data. And I think that's a really interesting fit because there's actually extensive use of IPLT as essentially an application storage layer. What I would like to get out of this talk, out of this group, I think I don't have a strong opinion about IPLT, but I would really love it if we could run selectors at the level of a database, where it's all executed based off of on indexes instead of computation. That would probably require rewriting most of selectors, but that's something I'm interested in. Yeah.
All right. Guess we'll keep shuffling around.
Okay. So I'm Antonio, I'm working on Kubo, and I would like to see a performant way to work with trees instead of blocks. So I want to have an API that is knowing about the tree, not only the block and the CID, to make things faster, add some metadata information about a folder, information about the hashes contained inside a folder.
Hi, I'm Joroko. I also work on Kubo, and I would like to see some more data-oriented design, that's the libraries, and faster ways to do copies, and I would like simply some faster IPLT tooling.
I'm Gus. I work on IPFS. I don't know much about IPLT, so I guess I want to find out what other people are thinking of the important problem.
Yeah, that's one for me. Future. I also work on developer experience and keywords. So I'm interested in how I want to what you might be building next, so that you might be consistent.
Yeah, hi, I'm Laurent. I'm working on the developer experience team too. And yeah, so I'm curious to see what you guys are building. And I'm also curious about privacy in IPFS. How can we have privacy and like this network, decentralized network at the same time.
I'm Steve, and I've been working on BitSwap so far. Kind of a protocol nerd, so I can't really get to the contents of much of what's going on. Learn.
Cool.
My name, welcome to Tables, which is kind of policy and access control. We're actually pretty happy with the IPFS model. We don't have any massive pain points. The only minor one would be something like easily being able to express a selector for looking up something in an ADT to return all those blocks over something like BitSwap or another protocol.
Hello, I'm Wilford. I actually work on IPLD libraries sometimes, in Golang mostly, and also in applications trying to build on top of them. And mostly going to listen to what people want. I try to guess what people want, and I usually guess wrong, so tell me things.
So I work on the right now. Previously worked on the actors in Pipeline. If you haven't heard the in Pipeline, before that I worked on IPFS. In terms of IPLD, I guess the actors are built on top of IPLD and use it as their data structure. So these are effective applications that use IPLD as their persistent memory. So my goal with IPLD really is to get basically network transparent, automatically serialized memory that just works. I don't even want to think about the fact that it started from like data structures or where it lives or anything like that. So I want to just have my tree of stuff and then lazily load the pieces that I need and then write them out as I'm done with them and then let other people load them when I send them a link to something. Because I want to think of this as like it's memory. I just send you a CID and it's a pointer to something. It's not something specific.
I'm trying to use IPLD IPFS for storing knowledge graphs and large language models, and anything involving machine learning really. But yeah, in fact, writing a large language model seems to be a good bottleneck. So yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks all of you for sharing that. One of the reasons I ask for this or push on this is I find, at least for me personally.
They want to speak?
Oh, yeah, we have people on Zoom. Hello. Jonathan, Ollie, Reba. We're asking folks, I think you can, I don't know if you heard us at the beginning, but a little bit about what you want to see from working on this kind of tooling, working with IPFS and data, and what you want to see out of this workshop. I hope audio works. Reba, you want to take it away? Audio works.
Audio works, cool. Well, not so cool because I don't have much to say. I am not entirely sure what to expect. So, not being there, I'll mostly just listen. But hoping to get, I guess, a little more delineation between the different things that build IPFS as a concept, because we seem to be, from my perspective, one of the main problems is that we work on several completely unrelated technologies and call them the same thing, and everybody kind of holds a different part of the elephant. And that's what brings us to the place where we are today. And that's what I want to get more clarity on, what others think, kind of thing.
Thanks. Jonathan, you want to go next?
Sure. Apologies if I'm repeating what was being said in the room, because it was a little bit difficult to hear what other people were saying, barring yourself as a speaker, which is okay, it's fine. Yeah, I think an idea of how the ecosystem may move forwards in terms of driving the adoptions of schemas, interchangeability between the ability to use those more intelligently. I think, as other people are sort of edging towards it, the there is a distinction between IPFS and IPLD, which, you know, is not always obvious from the tooling. I'm, again, very interested in IPLD as a sort of a technology for application development and not simply for file storage. And I think there's a huge potential there. And some of the parts of the tool chain are a little bit unloved in that respect. And I don't want to sort of do anything other than learn what the community consensus is around moving forwards on that corner of the ecosystem.
Thanks. Ollie?
Hello. I'm mostly lurking with extreme FOMO, but I'm here for the chat around making UnixFS less special gateways, how to present IPLD, any IPLD data over the HTTP gateway. That's my pet interest.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, so the reason why I asked this is, at least for me personally, it helps when dealing with some of these like large systems to understand where people are coming from. In the IPFS context, like one that I frequently use is I sort of ask people what about IPFS they find most valuable. And some folks will say things like, you know, immutable data, content addressing. So immutable data is pretty cool. My cache numbers go to infinity. Like I don't have to have like an eviction policy other than when I don't feel like having you anymore. And other people will say, what's really cool about it is that I can fetch the data from anyone, including if the original author went offline. And those are both things that you get out of the IPFS system. But depending on which avenue you come at it from, you're going to have different perspectives on how problems happen. And so even though I personally have a very strong preference towards one of those, I understand both sides. And so it makes it easier for me to understand where someone else is coming from, which means that we get to talk into some of the discussions later today. We can see where the other person is coming from and like try and reason from their perspective when we run into some of these like thornier topics. Yeah, so mentioned some of this. I've done like an overview on a bunch of like the stuff of working with data. I like to move back a little and be like, it seems pretty deep in the IPFS project to be like, I want an abstraction layer that will let me be wrong and figure it out later, because I am wrong all of the time. And this is okay, because like we're people, that's what we do. And then we fix it, we be better. And it would be nice if when we try and make it better, it's not really, really hard. You know, multi-formats has sort of like the official slogan, like not going to change considered harmful. Right, multi-hash, SHA-1 is the best. And then someone's like, well, how about SHA-2? And then someone's like, have you considered SHA-1 is kind of broken? Right, and if you're stuck in SHA-1, Git and BitTorrent, then like life is hard for you. Right, there are different base encodings. Everyone has their favorite base encoding. There are different, you know, there are different addressing schemes for networks. Right, libp2p uses this as an abstraction layer. It's, you know, just give me a stream. Right, there may be ways to do this with packets and request response too, but just like give me a stream. I don't care how you do it. That's like what I want to build on top of. And IPLD is trying to do this in some way for hash-linked data structures. Some of these are harder than others, right? I think like using streams for networking seems like fairly reasonable given the prevalence of things like TCP. Hash-linked data structures, we're kind of pushing the boundaries here. We have to find the abstraction layers that work for us. We got a bunch of them already. There's the data model, there's codecs, ADL, schema, selectors, even some of like the pathing stuff that exists in like IPFS gateways. Are there enough? Do we need more? Do we need to change some of these? Right? These are things that like, we're building abstractions because we feel we need them, not because we think they're cool. So like, yeah, how do we, what's gonna make it work for us? Here's the schedule today and roughly like, I think how they fit into the picture. I'm gonna talk about block limits shortly, which is I think a big pain in making our abstractions work because we have this sort of like artificial size limit in there that prevents interoperability with other systems. We'll talk about IPLD on gateways with URLs, which is basically another abstraction layer that's being added to help reason about or work with IPLD data, make it more friendly. We'll have a discussion about abstractions on hash link data and basically look at this what do we need thing a little bit. I'll talk a little bit about some knowledge I've gained from working on an IPLD implementation that does WebAssembly things. Yeah, and sort of what I've learned and give a little demo and see how that goes. And then people seem to want to talk about UnixFS. So let's talk about UnixFS and what comes next. And what we need in order to make whatever we want to come next happen. And this is part of a sort of a joint, there's data transfer tomorrow, and then we're going to have some uncomps later tomorrow. So figure we should get at least 15 minutes to like figure out if there's anything that has sprung up immediately is like we should schedule those sort of uncomp things. And of course more can spring up tonight or tomorrow and we'll do that. Thanks.